So, hello everyone, I'm Rizwan, and today I want to talk about why, when I was 19 years old, I wanted to quit filmmaking altogether. And here's the story. Firstly, I was just afraid that I won't be able to make enough money supporting myself through only films. So I thought, okay, I'd study something that would make me money, and then maybe if I still wanted to, I could pursue films and finance my own films. But unfortunately, it didn't exactly turn out the way that I wanted. I had to drop out and join a new course which is more related to film, which is a sort of a media program. So one of the main things that I was thinking about was that okay, I didn't want to rely on my family too much. I wanted to be independent, and I wanted to get there as soon as possible because um, I wanted to live independently. But if I go through with filmmaking, I might not be really able to do that. But eventually, it followed me back, you know, in a way. Another thing was that there weren't enough people in my social circle that were actually interested in films. So because of that, I felt like this is something that only I'm interested in, and there's not a lot of passionate people, and because of that, I started to get demotivated. I felt like a lot of things that they were doing that they were good at, I wasn't good at it because I've spent a lot of time pursuing learning about film, watching films, watching tutorials, and investing myself in film. I wasn't really that into other hobbies that other people my age were interested in, so obviously I wasn't able to really connect with them on a deeper level because I wasn't really sharing the same hobbies and the same lifestyles that they were living. So that really kind of made me question, like, okay, we've spent so much time on films, why not branch out into other hobbies, which it could have made us have more friends, more connections. Kind of brings me to the next point, which is that um, there were a lot of naysayers while I was making short films. I was making a lot of experimental short films, and during that time, this is when um, pranking was a big thing in YouTube, and people wanted me to actually prank and do these sketches and do vlogs. I mean, I'm doing vlogs right now because I want to, but back then, people were kind of almost forcing me to do these prank videos, do these uh, comedic videos, which I wasn't even really into it. But people who don't exactly understand what I'm trying to do with films, because most people, they watch a film, they watch it for entertainment. For me, and for a lot of cinephiles, it's for the experience something new, and something that you couldn't get from doing something else. That's why they watch films, right? But a lot of people, in general, the general population, usually they don't get that, which is understandable. But sometimes it's very hard to explain as a filmmaker what it exactly means to actually go and do these kinds of films. And a lot of people were thinking I should do just be a regular YouTuber making vlogs and making um, these regular content, which I just had no interest in. So that also kind of demotivated me after a while because okay, you know what, people aren't watching my films, so why not just I it was either make vlogs or uh, no, sorry, not vlogs, but pranks, or just quit, and then I decided, even if I want to quit, I have to continue doing because this is what I want to do. And the next point is that I was seeing the progress of other filmmakers that were just starting out, that were in my area. They uh, maybe not necessarily filmmakers per se, but people who were doing similar thing that I was doing, in terms of like whether it's editing, cinematography, video, um, photography, even. They were just starting out in just 1 year, and then suddenly they reach a huge amount of growth. And when I saw that, I really felt demotivated because I've been, uh, if I count up until now, I've been making films for almost 10 years. And during that time, like let's say when I was 19, I think I was making films for about um, 6 7 years. And I was seeing people who just started like a few months ago getting a lot of followers, a lot of subscribers. And I really felt like, you know what, maybe this isn't for me. No matter how much I do, no matter how much work I put in, people are not gonna really pay attention or stick around to watch it. So, why even bother? That was the thought process that I had at that time. And the in a way, what I was seeing was also those other people. They had a community backing them. They had a lot of friends. They had a lot of people from their race, people from their religion or community, who were supporting them to do all these things, and they were volunteering to help them. They weren't even like necessarily doing it as a real. I shouldn't say real, but they weren't really doing it as a paid project. They were just like, hey man, you're starting out doing this video. Yeah, I want to help out. This type of thing wasn't really happening to me that often. So I felt really demotivated. Like, I'm just in it all alone. So that really added to the like this sort of loneliness that I felt as an artist, because I felt like there was really only me trying to do this within my peer group and community. So the next point, moving on, is of course the lack of community support. I felt like what I was doing was not something that people, because as I've said before, the people who are doing really good after they just started out, or after a relatively short period of time, they were getting a lot of followers. It's because they had a community behind them that were backing them and were really curious and invested in them. So uh, the thing is, I didn't have that, and I felt like even if I keep trying, I might not be able to get that. But I don't necessarily think it's true right now, but that's how I felt at that time. And the problem that I at least experienced from my own community is, I'm not trying to blame or criticize anyone through this, but there were some people who were actively trying to um, talk behind my back in a way, like spread hatred towards my videos and films, even though they were trying to do the same thing that I was doing. And also, there were people that I've even worked with who have turned their backs on me when it was still when I was a teenager, and I didn't understand what it was, but from what I can gather, it was that they didn't like the fact that I was going around making films, doing what I wanted to do. They didn't like the fact that I was getting people to volunteer to make these films, and these people were at that time around the same age as me, maybe a little younger, but it was kind of just odd to see. And that also really motivated me, like, man, people I work with and people who are meant to support me, they were not supporting me. So I was like, maybe this isn't for me. And the other thing, of course, was that I come from a part where we don't actually um, speak the common language in India, which is Hindi. Of course, a lot of people from our group do speak Hindi, they learn, which I think I really appreciate that. But for me, I didn't have that. I didn't grow up that way. I didn't have that environment. And a lot of people, And here's another thing. A lot of people were very racist to me and during the time I was growing up in high school because and I kid you not, specifically because I was Tamil, they were very, very racist towards me. And that really demotivated me to not learn Hindi. So, it's these kinds of things. Some people never experience that. For some people, it does happen, and um, these kinds of things really prevented me from approaching people who were making films in their own language. Other YouTubers, other filmmakers, and eventually, as I got older, I met a lot of kind people, thankfully, but that initial exposure was really an awful thing, I would say. You know, you would expect that Chinese people were the most racist because I'm living in Hong Kong, but in fact, the people, that environment I was in, the people that I was with, and the schooling that I've been, it was in a school that was mostly ethnic minorities, and so I met with a lot of Indians. There were a lot of kind people as well, but because I was um, not speaking the same language as them, it made it a barrier to actually approach them and get them be invested in the films that I was making. And I see another group of people that they can speak different languages and they could approach many different people, and many different people will become friends with them and make films with them. And um, yeah, that didn't exactly happen. And another thing that I wanted to say about filmmaking in the ethnic minority groups in Hong Kong, and if I get hate for this, it's okay, really, because I'm not trying to criticize anyone. What I'm trying to say is that there are people who form their in group, like, if let's say this is a group A, and this group A is from a certain um, country, let's say they would only make films with people from that country, like country A. Like, okay, country A, I want to recruit only people from country A, and I'm only going to work with people from country A, or maybe just the neighboring parts, you know. And you would think, okay, country B might be more open-minded, and then you go there and they're not that open-minded either. They only want to make within their group, and sometimes there are reasons for it. I completely understand. Sometimes I myself have some in group, right? But I try to stay as open minded as possible, and right now the people that I'm working with are from a variety of racial backgrounds. And um, even if you work within your in group, if you're not disrespecting other people, I appreciate that. I still understand that. But uh, those that go out of their way to disrespect other creators because they're of a certain race, then I don't know what to say, because everyone right now in every part of the world is going through a tough time, and if people are trying to be that petty, then I don't know what to say, because at the end of the day, as filmmakers, we're all trying to do the same thing, and I hope filmmakers, everyone there is some mutual respect, because this community is still pretty small, even though like there are in groups. Overall, we're still ethnic minorities in Hong Kong, so I hope there's more respect. Yeah, I eventually came back into filmmaking, and the simple reason is that I just couldn't stop making. I just couldn't stop watching films. I couldn't stop thinking about different story ideas, different ways to film, different types of films to make. I just couldn't get away from it, even though I took a step back. And there were people around that time when I was 19 that they encouraged me to come back and make videos, videography, photography, and to help them out. And that, even though I eventually started to move back and do, you know, go into films, and I did step back again and do a bunch of other things. Uh, it really opened my eyes because I realized that okay, it's not just people from my high school or my university. I realized that there were people who wanted to have different types of content like photography, videography, um, and that made my interest in filmmaking come back because I was working with different cameras, different. I was meeting different photographers, videographers, and I was seeing different, just different types of people that were actually willing to collaborate with me and work with me. And I eventually just just decided, you know what, let's just come back in. The truth is, even to this day, I still struggle with um, coming back and producing short films and films in general. But what I've learned overall is, at the end of the day, as a filmmaker, you're the only one that has to take the responsibility. And whether the film happens or not, whether people drop out of the project, people are flaky, people are not exactly trustworthy. At the end of the day, whether the project happens or not, it's actually up to you. Whether the types of projects that you pick up, whether it's really high scale, or whether you want to make something that's just a few minutes by yourself, recording with your own camera, and just putting the camera down and filming yourself like this. It's all up to you at the end of the day. So that's eventually what I realized. And whether people watch it or not, as long as you like what you're doing, just keep doing it. That's what I want to say, and I hope my sharing was inspirational to you. uh, if not, or if you want to have some feedback or comment, that's totally great. So yeah, hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.